We made this video to give the viewer an idea of what the experience looks like to boat around the San Juan Islands. We had hoped to find something similar prior to our trip and could not, so we made this. On our first day, we left out of Anacortes, crossed Rosario Strait, and then turned north up to East Sound on Orcas Island. Anacortes has everything you'll need to get ready for a trip like this. It has plenty of marine stores, grocery stores, and that type of thing. Okay, this is the first site you'll see headed out from Greaves Channel crossing Rosario Strait, and that is Thatcher Pass in the center of the screen there, which is about 3 to 4 miles across. And here we are at East Sound. That is the day dock, panning across the town, and that is Rock Island. Looking south. And there we are. We were the only boat anchored at East Sound this evening. Those mooring buoys there are private. And again, the day dock we came up to. And here's a shot from the shore at low tide. And again, you see the mooring buoys in the foreground there that are private, and the day dock off to the left. Here's the grocery store, which is about a 2-block walk from that day dock. And East Sound, which is just a wonderful little quaint town with cafes. We had breakfast at this one, and art galleries, and other assorted little boutique shops. Another shot of the day dock and the boat off there in the distance, and if you look, you can see our dinghy. When we had asked about going to East Sound, we were told that it wasn't particularly boater friendly, so we had the place to ourselves, and it was very pleasant. And here's a shot looking south as we're headed from East Sound to Roche Island. And looking at our map, you can see we headed south out of East Sound and turned to the east through Obstruction Pass, and then swung around Orcas Island and then northwest to Roche Island. As you come out of Obstruction Pass, you'll see this Mount Baker off in the distance there. And this is looking north in Rosario Strait and panning around to the south. On this day, we were able to get a little wind. As you can see, we have the sails up. And here we are at Roche Island in Echo Bay, which is the largest of the bays and likely the most popular as well. There are about 16 mooring buoys up at the front of the bay, but we were told that you need to get there early to get one of those, and indeed that was the fact. So here we are anchored, and there was plenty of room to anchor those, so there was no problem there. This is Mattia Island off in the distance, and on the north side of it you can see there's a few boats anchored, and we heard there were also some mooring buoys there too. And here we have a couple of shots of sunrise the next morning. And here's a few still shots. I love the silhouette of the mountain range in the background. And as we were leaving, on one of the finger islands, we saw 4 bald eagles, and one of them assisting a youngster in gathering food, and there's that one. Okay, departing Echo Bay and looking across the Finger Islands and panning to the west and then to the south. And again, Matia Island. And those are the bays between the Finger Islands there. We were very curious about what that looked like before going, because we had read several different accounts of how shallow or how deep it was or how much room there would be. And the first 2 are actually bays, and then the other 2 are islands, which you can pass between to get into Echo Bay, which we did. This is Fossil Bay, which I hear has some mooring buoys. Again, I think you'd have to get there early in the morning to get one of those. Okay, on this day we left Susha Island heading for Friday Harbor and went through Presidential Strait and then south, and then turned to the west into Friday Harbor. And here we are on the way, and we saw porpoise. In fact, we saw porpoise every day, and some days they swam along with us, and some days we just saw them rolling off in the distance. A nice old wooden boat. And our experience was there was about an even number of sailing craft and motor craft along the way. And during our trip anyway, I would say that most of the sailing craft were motoring. As you can see in most of the shots, there was very little wind. We managed to sail on 3 of the 8 days we were there. And here's a shot looking south on San Juan Strait. And here's a whale watching boat. There are several of those, as there are 3 pods of Orcas whales that live in the area. And when you turn west looking into Friday Harbor, that is the entrance. And once in Friday Harbor, I walked out to the end of the dock and set the camera on a piling to get this shot, which I thought was kind of nice, looking out there at Mount Baker. And the wind picked up just a little, and you can see there's 3 sailboats off in the distance, lazily making their way north. Friday Harbor is the largest of all of the harbors in the San Juan Islands. Although I will say that we stopped at East Sound, we stopped here, and we have another couple of stops along the way. There are grocery stores every place we stopped, other than, of course, Susha Island, which is a park, and one other stop on our last night. So there was plenty of places to stock up on provisions along the way. And here we are looking over Friday Harbor, which is also the largest in boat number, it seems, as you can see by the number of trash receptacles and recycling receptacles. And if you walk up about a block from that harbor where we were just standing, you find this circle here at the base of the town and one of the main roads running up into the town, where there are cafes, grocery stores, moped rentals, everything you could need. This is the main office of the marina here, and at the bottom there, the dock for dinghies for boats that choose to anchor. And there is an anchorage not far off from the marina too. We opted to get a slip. Friday Harbor was the least expensive of the marinas we went to. I think it was only about $25 a night. So then we left Friday Harbor and headed over to Canada. We went north and then turned west across Haro Strait and to Port of Sydney. And you can see here we have another day of relatively calm weather. So we have made us a gourmet breakfast along the way. Of course, we're running on autopilot now. And here we're trying to capture on camera a couple of porpoises swimming along with us. I don't think we were going fast enough to really entertain them, so they swam along with the boat for a moment. And of course we've slowed this down quite a bit to try to keep them in frame as long as possible. And here we are at Sydney, and this is the marina office, which was a nice facility. They had showers and laundry, and an overview of that marina. And that's the boat we were on, which was a 30 Catalina, which had plenty of room for the two of us. Replenishing our water supply. We had 50 gallons, which last us on this trip about 3 days. And taking advantage of shore power while we were here also. This is the grocery store in Sydney, just about a 2-block walk from the marina, which as you can see was huge. And we took a bus trip down to Victoria Harbor, which was about a 45-minute ride each way. And we would have just gone into Victoria Harbor, except there was a tall ship show going on, and we were discouraged from going into the harbor. So we went to Sydney and then took the bus down. Here's a shot of Victoria Harbor, and we were just amused by the amount of activity going on here. As you can see, there's planes coming in, there's a ketch leaving, there's a ferry leaving, there's motorboats crossing, and you'll see some other activity going on here as well. There's a few stills of the tall boat show. and that is the Parliament building off in the background. And the water taxi there in the foreground, they were running all over Victoria Harbor. And then here's a shot of leaving Sydney Harbor. This is sped up 4 times, and it was the only place we went where they actually had jetties right into the harbor, and we were encouraged to stay in the center at low tide, which you can see it is right now. But we found it to be very simple. Okay, so we left Sydney Harbor, headed for Roche Harbor the long way. We turned north on Harrow Strait there, and then went to the east in Boundary Pass, and then made our way back. And we went this way hoping to see some of those pods of whales, which we had heard frequented this area. We didn't have much wind this day either, as you can see, and in fact we got right out there in the middle of Boundary Pass and just drifted for a ways and had lunch. Here we are at Turning Point. And we've made our way to Roche Harbor, and this is a sunset shot of that. This is just prior to 4th of July, hence all of the red, white, and blue decorations. That was Harrow Hotel. We didn't stay there, of course. We stayed on the boat in the marina. And that's the restaurant. And there's also a cafe, which we did have lunch at. And there's a sunset still of the flag lowering event they have nightly. And the grocery store. Again, we were informed that Roche Harbor only had minimal supplies at the grocery store, which we found not to be the case. The grocery store there had everything that you could want, or near everything you could want, with an especially large wine and cheese selection. And here's leaving Roche Harbor again at 4 times speed. You can notice we are hugging the boats over to port. To starboard was the shore, and of course the shallower side of the channel we're in. That boat off to starboard there was having a bit of trouble getting its anchor up. And Roche Harbor, you'll notice the larger, more luxurious yachts. As the story goes, that's where John Wayne once kept his yacht. Okay, on this day, we went from Roche Harbor to Friday Harbor, intending to circle around the other direction of San Juan Island. But once we headed out into Haro Strait on this day, the tide and the winds were running the opposite direction. There were very large swells out there, and didn't think we were going to be able to make it around in time for sunset. So we came back this way and then headed down into Griffin Bay looking for whales in that area, which we did find a few small orca whales, and then headed back north into Friday Harbor once again. And here we are pulling into Friday Harbor. And up on the top of the skyline there, you can see the sun shining on a building. That is the Whale Museum. And when we pull into dock here, you'll notice a gentleman walk across the front and come to help us dock, which was the case every place that we went and docked in a marina. Somebody in an adjacent boat or that worked for the marina came out and assisted us. Here he comes walking across the screen there. Which is a good practice, of course, to always assist someone you see pulling in or out with their docking. And here comes someone else to help. And by this time, we happened to have it settled in. It was an easy dock on this particular evening. And here's just a relaxing shot off the stern. And again, a shot leaving Friday Harbor, and this is sped up 4 times. This is one of the busier harbors, as you can see here. But again, if you just take your time and keep an eye out for everyone else, it goes off very smoothly. And here we are making the final turn out. And this day we're going from Friday Harbor to Spencer Spit. And as you can see, we headed south out Cattle Pass there. We turned to the west, hoping to find some whales. That was one of the more popular areas to find the whales, which is where this shot is. And we got out, and you can see there's a fog bank that rolled in. So here we are in the fog, and we could not see more than about 300-400 yards in any direction, including the shore or any other watercraft or anything. And we were simply relying on our electronics at this point. So not knowing how long the fog would last, we decided to just keep our course to the north and then stay out of the ship channel. After about an hour and a half, the fog lifted. And here are a few shots of some of the orca whales I had taken in this area. Headed north now on Rosario Strait. Anacortes would be off to the starboard, and Thatcher Pass off to port. So we're back to where we started, and we're going to spend the night anchored at Spencer Spit, since we need to be back at Anacortes the next morning. We're now rounding Davis Island. And the current was really working with us on this day. We were able to get about 11 knots motor sailing, which is something you should be very conscious of in this area, is they have quite a large tidal swing, which means of course they have quite powerful currents as the tide ebbs and floods. And there were moments where we could only get maybe 1 knot, having to go the wrong direction or against the current, and then again we could get 11 going with it. So we did try to schedule our days as well as we could to take advantage of those tidal flows. However, there were times when we had to change course, and that was not the case. You can see there's a ferry off to starboard there, just to the right of the mast, and you will hear a bit of discussion about keeping an eye out for the ferries, because they do wind their way through the islands. They go faster than you will be going in a sailboat in particular, and they're huge, and they have the right of way. We just kept an eye out for them, especially off the stern, and stayed out of their way and had no incident. And we're both headed into Thatcher Pass here. And here is something you'll want to watch for. That is a log about the size of a railroad tie, which could easily have breached the hull. We ran across about a dozen of these on our trip, so be sure to keep a lookout for those guys. And here we are at Spencer Spit, which is a small peninsula off of Lopez Island, which runs out to that rock island right there. And we dinghied up to it after anchoring. And there's the north side and the south side. This is the south side. The north side is simply about 100 yards off to the left there. We chose to anchor on the south side because of the predicted wind direction that evening. We felt we would get a better sleep. And as you notice on our dinghy, we did not have an outboard. We chose to simply row the places that we went, which turned out really nice. the service wanted to or offered to rent us an outboard, but I thought that instead of wrestling with the outboard and having the noise and the smoke, that we would simply row the places we went, and it worked out great. If you were planning to do more exploring with the dinghy, and you could get a dinghy that was able to plane and a large enough motor of, say, about 8 or 10 horsepower, then you may want to go ahead and do that. But as you can see here, we were able to easily row. And this last night we had a storm blow through, a lightning storm. Caught one of the strikes right there. And here's a final relaxing shot from the beach before heading back. And just to wrap up a few things, some people had asked us about bareboating, and when we contacted this service, they had sent out a packet including a resume questionnaire, and you will need to have a good bit of experience on up to, or at least the size of boats you're planning on taking out, which I had. And then when we got there, we went over quite a bit of the information of the area with the service, and then went down to the boat, went over the boat, and they did ask us to take the boat out of the slip, maneuver around the marina, and then park the boat back in the slip before they let us take it out. And so here's our course on the last day from Spencer Spit across Rosario Strait and back into Guimes Channel. Here's a still of that. And it was a chilly, rainy morning. There I am at the helm. And that's the entire trip right there. Again, the only thing we would have done differently is go around Haro Strait on the way back up to Friday Harbor on the west side of San Juan Island. And that covers this trip, and we'd like to thank you for picking up our DVD.
You